Hello everyone, this is your educator Priyanka Thakur. I'm teaching you life sciences and welcome you all on our YouTube channel Gurmantra Shiksha Ka Granth. So this is the third part of excretory system. In previous part, which was the part 2, I told you about how the urine formation starts to take place and how is it taking place and how the reabsorption of water takes place, but we couldn't complete counter current mechanism. In fact, we failed to start it even. Okay, so in this video I'm going to tell you in detail about counter current mechanism. Before that, I want you request I want you that you should share these videos more and more. It's a request. Okay, so you can even share our whole playlist if you want to. Still, if you do it, if you find it beneficial. Okay, because it is important for us and for many other aspirants as well. Okay, so let's start with our today's topic, which is about urine characters, and we will also come to know about counter current mechanism. Fine. So what are the characteristics of normal urine? So normal urine, the you see urine volume is about it's about 95% of water and 5% of solutes are there, and these solutes are urea, creatinine, and uric acid. The largest solute fractions are devoted by nitrogenous waste, and urea, creatinine, and uric acids are what? These are the nitrogenous waste. Okay. So, what is the color of urine? It is light yellow. Sometimes you say it's pale yellow in color. And what is the reason of this pale yellow color? Oh, I'm sorry, it happens by mistake. Okay, so I would like to have a pointer here, but let's see. Wait, let me have a pointer. Okay. Okay, sometimes the arrow make cause disturbances. So now it's clearly visible now. Fine. So what is the color of a urine? It's pale yellow, and it is yellow due to the presence of urochrome and urobilin. Now, what is this urochrome? Urochrome are the pigments which are produced by the breakdown of bile, and urobilin are the pigments which are produced by the breakdown of hemoglobin. Let's talk about odor. Mostly odorless, or I will say it's mildly mildly odored. Okay, it's mildly aromatic, but it becomes ammonia-like upon standing. Okay, so urine of a diabetic patient, it has a fruity odor, and this fruity odor is due to the presence of ketone bodies. Remember this thing, that the diabetic patient urine is fruitly aromatic, and the fruity odor of that urine is due to the presence of ketone bodies. And then comes the pH of the urine. pH of urine, it ranges in between 4.5 to 8, but we take the average, it's 6. So we can say the urine is slightly acidic, and the acidity varies. This pH varies considerably with diet. If you are taking enough proteins, then these proteins will increase your acidity. But if you are like taking very vegetarian diet and which is less in protein, so it will increase the alkalinity. Okay. So you sometimes you also study about specific gravity. I just want to tell you that higher the concentration of solutes, higher will be the specific gravity. Okay. Glycosuria. What is glycosuria? So in previous video I told you that along in the filtrate that comes in the renal tubule, glucose is also filtered out, but most of the glucose is reabsorbed. But when the glucose is excreted into the urine, this condition is called glycosuria. Because that I just told you that urine contains no glucose, because the kidneys are able to reabsorb all the filtered glucose. But when due to some reason, like if the blood concentration of glucose is like above 200 milligram per ml, then the transport proteins in renal tubule cells, they cannot work fast and to reabsorb all the glucose that enters the glomerular filtrate, and as a result some glucose remains in the urine, and this condition is called glycosuria. Okay, next come proteinuria. When the protein level are increased in the urine, normally remember no proteins are filtered out in the urine, but if due to any defect, if proteins comes out in the urine, the disorder is known as proteinuria. And then comes the ketonuria. Ketonuria is normally seen in the diabetic patient in which ketone bodies are present in the urine. Then comes hematuria. In hematuria, you will see the presence of blood, may erythrocytes. That's how you will see the blood in the person's urine, because RBCs are red in color due to they contain hemoglobin, and you will see blood in the person's urine. So in hematuria, you will see red blood sent in person's urine. Normally, you know that blood contains no RBCs. I mean, it contains no cells, like no formed elements or no proteins. Pyuria is the condition of urine when white blood cells are there in urine, or we say there is pus in the urine. So I hope all these disorders are very clear to you, and you also know about the general norm or characteristics of the urine. Okay, so let's now know how the formation of concentrated urine takes place. See, the total volume of fluid in our body, it normally remains stable in spite of highly variable amount of fluid intake. Okay, homeostasis of amount of body fluid, it mainly depends on the ability of kidney to regulate the rate of water loss in the urine. And our normal functioning kidneys can regulate the amount of water loss, and thus they can regulate the homeostasis as well. When the fluid intake is high, then kidneys produce large volumes of diluted urine. But when the fluid intake is less, or a large volume of fluid has been lost by our body, at that time kidneys produce small volume of urine which is concentrated. If fluid intake is high, kidneys are producing large volume of diluted urine. But when fluid intake is low, or our body has already lost a lot of water, at that time kidneys concentrate the urine to a larger extent, and it releases only a small volume of it. And this ability of kidney to produce more concentrated urine, like more concentrated fluid than plasma, is very important for survival. And kidney can produce approximately 20 milliosmo osmo per liter of fluid. It means its osmolarity can increase to this level. The basic requirement for forming concentrated urine are a high level of antidiuretic hormone, and this hormone, as I have told you in my previous video, that this hormone it increases the permeability of distal tubule and collecting duct to water. Along with this, there is the requirement of high osmolarity of renal medullary interstitial fluid. There is requirement of high osmolarity of renal medullary interstitial fluid. Now you should know what is renal medullary interstitial fluid. I have told you about two types of nephron. One is juxtamedullary nephron, other one is cortical nephron. You will see renal medullary interstitial fluid in the your juxtamedullary nephron. ADH, what it will do? ADH, it comes to the receptor present on the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct, which then activates cycling AMP that act as a secondary messenger, and that secondary messenger then recruit aquaporins, water channels on distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct, which results in reabsorption of water. And reabsorption of water from the renal tubule definitely is going to help in the formation of a concentrated urine. But ADH cannot work unless there is enough osmolarity in the medullary interstitial fluid. So let me tell you about counter current mechanism. First, I think now you understand that the urine concentration ability is limited by the level of ADH and by the degree of hyperosmolarity of the renal medulla. Fortunately, a very large vertical osmotic gradient is maintained in the interstitial fluid of the medulla of the kidney, and the concentration of interstitial fluid progressively increases from cortical boundary down to the depth of renal medulla until it reaches maximum of 1200 milliosmo in humans at the junction with the renal pelvis. Okay, so you should know that for maintaining this osmotic gradient, there is a requirement of counter current mechanism. And counter current mechanism depend on the spatial anatomical arrangement of loop of Henle and vasa recta. In humans, most of the nephron are cortical nephron which do not have this much long loop of Henle which is extended down in the medulla. But remaining 25% of nephrons are there which are juxtamedullary nephron which are having loop of Henle and vasa recta that go deeply in the medulla before they return into the cortex. They go deeply into the medulla. So flow in the loop of Henle is considered counter current because the flow in the two closely adjacent limbs of loop moves in opposite direction. You can see it is moving in opposite direction. So two types of counter current mechanism exist in kidneys. One is counter current multiplication, other one is counter current exchange. Let me first tell you about counter current multiplication, but let me first tell you that the long nephron loop of juxtamedullary nephron will create the gradient. They act as counter current multipliers, while vasa recta will preserve that gradient and they act as counter current exchanger. The collecting duct of the nephron, they use the gradient to adjust urine osmolarity, and the osmolarity of medullary interstitial fluid progressively increases from 300 milliosmo to 1200 milliosmo at the deepest part of the medulla. Okay, so let's first talk about counter current multiplication. It is a process by which you will see a progressive increase in the osmotic gradient. Okay, you will see a progressive increase in the osmotic gradient of the interstitial fluid of renal medulla as a result of counter current flow. Counter current multiplication will involve the long loops of juxtamedullary nephron. The descending, this one is the descending limb of loop of Henle. It brings what? It brings the filtrate from the cortex deep into the medulla, and the ascending limbs carry this from medulla to the cortical region again, and this transport is occurring in the opposite direction. Since the counter current flow through the ascending and descending limb of the long loop of Henle is going to establish osmotic gradient in renal medulla, the loop of Henle is said to function as a counter current multiplier. How does it function? It functions as a counter current multiplier, and the kidney uses this osmotic gradient to excrete concentrated urine. Other one is counter current exchanger. This is the counter current exchange process by which solutes and water, these are passively exchanged in between blood of vasa recta and this interstitial fluid of renal medulla as a result of counter current flow. Vasa recta also consists of, like, this is the descending limb, this is the ascending limb, which are parallel to each other, as well as this vasa, this loop of Henle. And like loop of Henle, the blood moves in opposite direction in both of these limbs of vasa recta as well. But these vasa recta the counterflow in this vasa recta, in these ascending and descending limb of vasa recta, it allows the exchange of solute in water between the blood and this interstitial fluid of the renal medulla. And that's why vasa recta is said to function as counter current exchanger. How does it function? It functions as counter current exchanger. Now see what happens. Immediate filtrate which comes out of the capillaries into the Bowman capsule, and then the distal convoluted proximal convoluted tubule is diluted. But this descending loop of Henle is permeable for water, and it allows the water to get out of this tubule. And that's why slowly and steadily the concentration of inside the because it is losing water, but it is not losing solute. That's why in the inner fluid of this tubule become more and more concentrated when it goes down into the medulla. But this is now the ascending loop of Henle, and this loop is both either this thin part of ascending lane and thick part of ascending lane. Both of these parts are not permeable for water. Both of these parts are not permeable for water. Then how this osmolarity is decreasing, how the solute concentration is decreasing? Because here water is not going out, but sodium chloride, your solutes are going out of this tubule, and this is now restoring the osmolarity to 300 back again, and it will reach to 200 and even 100. Okay, fine. And but deep in the medulla you can see that NaCl, this is here in the interstitial fluid, but this gradient is maintained by vasa recta. Okay, filtrate is very dilute. It is hypoosmotic to the, it is hypoosmotic. You can see this is hypoosmotic to the interstitial fluid, isn't it? And at this reason, sodium and chloride ion are pumped out of the filtrate, and this increases the osmolarity of interstitial fluid. Here, at this point, you are seeing filtrate is reaching its highest concentration at the band of the loop. Okay, and this vasa recta, this this is the ascending loop of Henle. This is the descending loop of Henle. These sodium chloride which are coming out of the loop of Henle, descending loop of Henle, are entering into what? These are entering into vasa recta's descending limb. And sodium chloride now increases the osmolarity in this vasa recta. But ascending loop of Henle, not ascending limb of vasa recta, is again throwing out this sodium chloride out of them out of the blood into the interstitial fluid. Ultimately, the sodium chloride are released into the interstitial fluid. Okay, ultimately sodium chloride are released into the interstitial fluid. You understand my point or you don't understand it? Okay, I'm telling you that sodium chloride which was released by this ascending limb of loop of Henle is again reabsorbed by this descending limb of vasa recta to maintain the osmolarity. Okay, to maintain the osmolarity in the interstitium and as well as in this like in the interstitium mainly. Okay, so these sodium chloride are getting back in getting into inside the vasa recta's descending limb, but they are again coming out of the ascending limb of vasa recta. Ultimately, the sodium chloride are increasing in the interstitial fluid, and this is creating an osmotic gradient. Along with this sodium chloride, this countercurrent mechanism, urea cycle is also playing a role. This urea comes out of collecting duct and then get back into this loop again, and again get back into the collecting duct, and again get back into the interstitial fluid. It comes out to the interstitial fluid. It can get back into the into this tubule, but before that it comes into the interstitial fluid. So urea cycle and this counter current mechanism, which is resulting in the concentration of interstitial fluid, create a osmotic gradient. How? More is the solute concentration, more is the osmotic pressure. More is the solute concentration, more is the osmotic pressure, which will result in osmosis. And osmosis occurs as collecting duct is getting deep into the medulla. Osmosis, exosmosis occur from collecting duct. Water is moved out of this collecting duct into the interstitial space, and the urine that is formed into this collecting duct is concentrated. Remember this thing. This water cannot come out of this collecting duct, and from this reason also reabsorption is taking place. This water cannot come out of this place until or unless antidiuretic hormone is working here, also known as vasopressin. This hormone works only when there is less fluid intake or more fluid has been lost by our body. Okay, so antidiuretic hormone is recruited by it releases from the hypothalamus stored in the pituitary, and then posterior part of pituitary releases antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone has its receptor on the late distal convoluted tubule and this collecting duct. These receptors then stimulate your cyclic AMP, which act as secondary messenger, and this cyclic AMP recruit the aquaporins here, which allow the water molecules to reabsorb and that does not allow this water to go into the urine, and thus osmolarity and homeostasis is maintained in our body. I hope you understand how concentrated urine is produced and what is the condition when concentrated urine is going to form. Concentrated urine will be formed only when there is less fluid intake and more fluid lost by our body. Otherwise, it will not occur. Otherwise, there will be enough dilute urine that will be produced by our body, and a large volume of urine will be excreted out. You understand? And because sodium chloride ion concentration is increasing in the interstitium due to this countercurrent mechanism. This countercurrent mechanism is occurring in the nephron and vas recta as well. And other one is urea cycle, which is contributing to the increased concentration of interstitial fluid, which is increasing the osmotic pressure. And ADH is also working, which is allowing the water molecule to come out of this collecting tubule into the interstitium, and ultimately concentrated urine is formed. I hope the countercurrent mechanism is very clear to you and you are not having any problem in understanding this thing. And let me remind you one thing, that peritubular network is also formed, but we are not going to talk about this network here. Why? Because this is the juxtamedullary nephron and peritubular network of capillaries formed in the cortical region. That's all for today. I hope you understand each and everything that I told you. Okay. Let me tell you one more thing, that if you want to take the subscription of Unacademy for your CSIR NET preparation, you can see the detail of paid classes on your screens, and you can use the referral code of Neha Taneja ma'am, which is Neha. By using this referral code, you will be able to get the 10% off. You can follow Neha Taneja ma'am on Unacademy. She is a great mentor, great guide. She is going to teach you, she is going to guide you for your preparation. How should you prepare? She is going to tell you what are the important topics, where should you focus more and more. Okay, so go there and follow her. She is doing a lot for you. Give something to her also. Okay, so along with this, do not forget to subscribe to our channel Gurmantra, and yes, also press the bell icon if you want to get the notification, and you can join us wherever you want. For this, you have to check out the description box and you will get the links. On a single click, you will be there on our platform with us. You can ask the doubt, you can ask any queries. That's all for today. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.